What's the one piece of career advice you wish someone had given you when you were starting out?
There's probably lots of advice I wish someone had given me before they started out. So the first thing would have been, even when I was at school, is work out what your passion is, what you're good at, and follow that. So coming from an Asian background, there was a lot of pressure in terms of following sciences and doing these kind of things at school, which I was okay at, but I probably wasn't the most academic person, and which then led to me going to university doing a pharmacology degree initially, and then realizing probably after about 6 months, a year, I wasn't really passionate about it and I didn't really want to do it, but I had to complete it, and which I did. So I think that's probably one piece of advice. And then once I became a developer, I did this, so at that point, we used to like conversion courses for like people that don't know the degree, so you could do a master's conversion course. So I did that, and for the first few years after I finished my master's and I got a job, for the first few years I was just content and happy having a job coding. I couldn't believe that people were paying me to do something that I enjoyed doing. Yeah, and so you go into work and you're enjoying coding. It wasn't the most challenging job to start off with, but you're coding and someone's paying you, and you think you're quite happy to be doing that. And I think what that meant was maybe I took my eye off being a bit more career focused and working out what I'm trying to go. Just like going through the routine of just learning, enjoying my work, and getting paid to do it. And again, I think because coming from an immigrant background, my father, he had the same job for like 30 years, he was a bus driver, and he's quite risk averse. So a lot of his friends set up businesses and things like this, but he was always of the opinion that he needed to keep his job, pay the bills, and to make sure that his family had everything they wanted. And even at points where he didn't enjoy the work, and you could see he didn't really enjoy going in at 3 o'clock in the morning, he would continue doing that. So the one thing it did build in me was that you need to work. This idea that you're gonna get through life without working hard was never there. But the other thing maybe instilled in me, which was that you got to stick with the same job, and it's almost like you don't want to take a risk and move on. So I think the first piece of advice would be that you need to work out what you want to do, follow your passion, and be a bit more, maybe take a few more risks. And I think the second piece of advice would be that, so the company that I was in, I stayed in the same job for 13 years. And in that 13 years, the company was sold twice, I think. So once initially to venture capitalists, and again to a different company. And with those sales came in different levels of, people coming in above you in management roles. And I think I felt the need that I needed to validate myself to them.
Yeah.
They put it on that the old staff needed to show what they were worth. And I think if I could look back, I would tell myself that you don't need to do that. And in fact, the atmosphere is there, then it's probably time to move on. That you should have more confidence in your own skill set and think that I know what I'm doing, and I've only got to this position by knowing what I'm doing, and I don't need the validation of others. And I think so I started in 2000, so like 23 years later, younger people are struggling with a lot of these issues a lot more, with more social media. They feel the need that they need to be like something or somebody else. So I think professionally, you've got to build that confidence inside yourself that you got the skill set, you only got to where you got because of something that you've done.
Yeah.
And that if you need to move on or if you need to do something different, then you should have that confidence to do that yourself, I think.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career journey that made a significant impact?
So I think there's probably 3 or 4. So the first one was, I remembered about taking opportunities and understanding that opportunities sometimes come when you probably least expect them. So going back to 2000s, when you used to have actual physical newspapers and everything was on the internet. I think they used to give out Manchester Evening News free at the train station.
Yeah.
And I got a copy of it, and I'm just like looking through the job section. And I can't remember if I was totally serious about finding a job because I was still finishing off my master's. And I saw this little advert in the corner and just like a normal board around it, and it said developers needed or something, and it said like 3 or 4 languages. And I knew a couple. And the rest I thought, I don't know these. But I thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply anyway. And that was my first job. And even though, and the other thing that I've been doing at home, this is before the days of GitHub and repositories and all these kind of things. I'd been doing things at home that I could. But when I went into the interview, the person that interviewed me, he'd used the same programming languages. So we had something to talk about. And the point with that being pivotal is that if I looked and go, oh, I can't do that. that maybe I wouldn't got to that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was some of the work that I could do, and some of it obviously that I need to upskill on, which they were willing to do, help me do that. So if I did take that risk or that chance to just apply for something, then maybe I wouldn't got that opportunity. And I think the second one is that, like I said, I stayed in the same job for 13 years. The pivotal moment was when I decided to leave eventually, was because it was almost like you become institutionalized in that organization. Even though a lot of things have changed and a lot of people that I knew had moved on, it was almost like I really do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And unless you try, so I think deciding to move was another pivotal moment, because I realized there's a whole world of opportunity out there and I can actually do it. And it's not because I'm in this job that I'm good at what I do, I can actually do it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then I think the third pivotal moment was that job that I did go to was getting made redundant from it, which would seem like, I mean, it's probably more common now, especially with the economic situation. But I've never been out of work for 16 years. So straight out of university, I'd probably done a few months of warehouse work or something. And then I've gone start doing my master's, and then I'd started work. So for 16 years, or from the age of 18, I'd never really been out of work. I'd always had something to do. So you have to wake up at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, go somewhere, do something. All of a sudden, I'm married, I've got kids. But I wake up the next morning, I don't need to do anything. I've got some money, but you could start thinking, what am I going to do? So I think getting made redundant gave me the opportunity to work for myself, do some freelancing, which gave me the opportunity to work abroad through freelancing, get in contact, work abroad. I worked with tens of different types of people. I worked on tens of different projects, which I would have never have been able to do if I was still in a traditional job. That led me to forming my own company, meeting with other people, working with them as a CTO, then working with them in terms of forming other companies and creating other tech. And I think without that pivotal moment, all three of them, I wouldn't have got where I am. And I think that's why each opportunity always has its benefits and its pros and cons. And sometimes it can be easy to look at the cons and not look at something that's, give me an opportunity to advance and get to where I am now.
That reframe from being redundant, it can be very easy to think down and negative about it, but it actually created one of the best opportunities for you to pursue as well.
Yeah, so two things could have happened. I could have come home the next day, found myself another permanent job, started the next Monday, taken the money that I got, put it in the bank, enjoyed it, but then I was still back into the traditional job route, or I could have got contracting and doing all these kind of things. But I think you just got to sometimes take stock of where you are to be honest, I really wanted to work for myself, so I just took an opportunity of that to chance. And it's always been the issue once I was married and had kids, it's like, I can't leave my job because I've got the responsibility. But to be honest, looking back at it 7 years later, sometimes I do wonder how I've got through the last 8 years and nothing's really changed much financially. But that's because the opportunity was there and I was able to take it. And I've been helped along the way by a lot of people, and a lot of chance meetings and opportunities will come up which have created other avenues. But unless you take that step, you'll never be able to know. So whether that's going into another job, changing careers, or different type of creating with the career, all of these opportunities are always going to be there, and you just got to take on it.
How do you approach challenges and setbacks in your professional life, and what's your go-to strategy to overcome them?
Right, so I think the way I look at things is, especially if it's only professionally, even though the situation can sometimes look insurmountable, that compared to millions of people in the world, your problems, especially if it's only professionally, are minuscule and irrelevant compared to them. So therefore, you gotta have an approach of humility. You gotta have an approach of appreciating what you already got, and then dealing with those situations that you're facing from that. And I think what that does, it allows you things not to become overwhelming.
Yeah.
So becoming made redundant, even though I did get some money when I got made redundant, it could have been very daunting for me to say, what am I going to do? This is it. I worked for the last 18 years, 16 years, I don't know what to do. But if you just have that mentality that things are going to work themselves out. So if I look back to when I was at school, my GCSEs weren't great. I was thinking, not A's, why don't I didn't do that too bad, but I never got straight A's. But looking back at it now, X number, I won't tell you how old I am, but X number of years later, that's my new point, because things do work themselves out. There's always other opportunities and other avenues. Even with some of the businesses I've worked with or set up, sometimes you might have done a year's worth of work on a project and realize, something, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to, in inverted commas, pivot to something else.
Yeah.
And if you look at it at that, you can think, oh my God, I've just spent a whole year doing something and my decision making hasn't been perfect and we're going to have to change. But in reality, all it is that the situation has changed and all you got to do is just adopt a different approach.
Yeah.
So the first thing is acceptance, I guess, where you are and not looking back and thinking, why has this happened? Then appreciating what you got and then just taking action to fix any situation you're in professionally or personally. And to be honest, now with YouTube, GPT, all of these things, the younger generation have got so much information to fall back on how to solve problems. So like in terms of professionally, if I'm writing code, when I am writing code still, sometimes you can think, I don't know how to fix this. Especially if something new that you're doing, but there's always going to be somebody else that's doing the same thing or face a similar problem. You just got to find the right resource and the right information about how to overcome that. And I think for younger people, the world's their oyster and there's someone out there, there's no real... and I think the only thing that you need to fall back upon people that maybe you can rely upon in terms of technique, those things.
Thank you for your contribution. Really appreciate your time, Waseem.
Thank you.